Okay, so one of the beauties about doing acrylic painting, or acrylic pouring I should say, is that in all your test canvases and all your experiments, if you do make a bit of a balls up of it, you can always go back, and in most cases you can paint over it again or pour over it again. So in this one I'm going to attempt to do something with this. It all turned out a bit too dark really, you know, and I'm not happy with this area here. It's all got too muddy really. So I want to try and do a pour, a swipe pour, and I'm just going to try and lighten it up again. So I'm going to add a little bit of this sort of bluey green colour. Again, the paints I'm using for this are usually the Winsor and Newton gallery paints. Some people say they don't get great results with those, but I don't know. I've got sort of mixed feelings about them, but I've got lots and lots of bottles of that from before, so I'm just going to use it up really, you know. So rather than let it go to waste. So the idea on this one, so I'm going to be starting with black again, because I want to do, you know, have the edges quite dark. So it'll be black along here, then a green along here, a little bit more yellow in here. I've got a little bit of red left over as well. I'm going to throw that in anyway, because I think, you know, you can't go far wrong in just adding more colours to it, you know. More unexpected things happen when you add more colours. Just depends what you're into really. So for the consistency of this, I'm going with it. It's fairly, oh, that's a bit lumpy actually. It's a little bit too thick. I want it to just to be able to swipe quite easily. So in this bottle I've got a mix of water and floetrol. The floetrol is about 10% floetrol and the rest is water. And that should just stop it from thinning too much, just by adding a little bit of floetrol in it, you know. So as for the paint mix, it's half paint and half floetrol, and a little bit of water mixed with floetrol, just to loosen it up, because it depends from paint to paint. Sometimes when you do it half and half, some of the paint works out fine, sometimes it's still a little bit too thick. So that's sort of roughly where I want it there now, if you can see that. Okay, so let's get started. So again, paint on the edge here, or black paint I should say. Okay, don't forget to get right out to the edges. And if it runs over the edge, so what? I'm going to keep a little bit of black in that, so that I have something to fill in the edges with afterwards if I need it. Okay, now for the green, or bluey green. Okay, just going to let that run off the edge there. Same goes for this side. Okay. Now for our yellow, For the yellow, I'm going to add in a little bit of silicone oil. So I bought mine on Amazon, just came in a little bottle like this. So I don't know which brand it is as such, but it's labelled as silicone oil, so I'm taking their word for it that it's the right stuff. Okay, I put in about 7 drops there. I'm going to just loosen that up a little bit more. The idea of the silicone oil is that it should give you more cells, in theory. Although for the green I didn't add any silicone oil, nor in the black either. So it's just in the yellow. And I have no idea how this is going to turn out. But we'll find out. Okay. It does no harm to, I'm just going to put a little line in the middle of the green. You never know how that's going to affect things. Remember, there are no rules. And I had a little bit of this sort of red colour left over from an earlier painting, so I'm just going to throw that in as well. I quite like what's happening here, although I have a funny feeling when I swipe this it's going to cover it, but sure, if that happens, so what? And apologies for the squeaking of my feet on the floor. I've got the floor covered in plastic because the paint has a tendency of going everywhere, or not so much that it goes everywhere, but there's always something happens where you get a little bit of a drip here or there on something when you're moving around. So it pays to cover everything up first. Right, I think we're almost ready to rock and roll with this. So I'm going to do the swipe using a wet paper towel. Normally I use I have a plastic ruler, but what often happens is with the plastic ruler, when you put it in the paint and pull it along, the ruler, because it bends slightly, you end up missing part of the paint, and then it's maybe only the edges that are getting dragged and the middle section's getting left, and that's kind of how this area here ended up that way in the first place. So I'm going to try a different method this time. If you bear with me, I'll just get the paper towels. Actually, I've had a change of heart already on this, and I'm going to, just noticed a little bit of yellow missing on the sides, or on that side at least. So I'm going to use a sheet of acetate for the swipe, okay? So, let's hope I don't nudge the camera. It's not easy to film this and work around it. So, I'm going to start off this edge. So we just place the acetate, if you can see it, sinking into the black there. And then we just slowly, under its own weight, pull it towards us. Okay, that's worked out quite nice so far. And always check that your acetate, when you go again, make sure you're not dipping the yellow bits or the new colours into the black bit. Okay, so we want to start again, just getting the black. Okay, it's going to be next to impossible to have to cover up the join wherever you're, unless you've got one, like this is quite a big canvas, I'm not quite sure what size it is, 20 by 20 roughly in inches. So to try and cover up that join is next to impossible unless you've got a sheet of acetate that's the full width, you know, which I don't have, but this is just an old test canvas anyway, so I'm not that bothered about trying to make this one an absolute masterpiece as such. What's that? There's a lump in the paint. Anyway, we've started now, so we'll finish. Okay, that third one's not working out like I'd imagine, or like I wanted. Not bad though. Should I leave it? Should I swipe again? That's the killer question. I think I'm going to leave it actually. Although what I might do is actually swipe the side, which you can't really see. I'm just going to use a fresh sheet of acetate though. Or one that's been washed, at least. Where did I put it? Here we go. I'm just going to drag the side along. Just make the side blend in a little bit better. I know you can't see it from there, but you'll just have to trust me on that. Okay, I quite like that actually, in a crazy type of way. Ooh, same goes for this side. Again, you can't see it, but trust me. Okay, here we go. Okay, there's not a lot of paint there. Get a clean section. And for some bits you can just touch it up with your fingers. You don't want to push around too much though, because otherwise the paint mixes and you don't want it to become too muddy. Okay, I actually really like that now. I'm glad I done it. Okay, as it turns out, I wasn't really happy after standing back looking at that for a while. I know I'll not be happy with this top section. So what I'm going to attempt now is to pour on this section and swipe the other way, which will probably cover up this. I don't know what's going to happen, but we're about to find out. So I've mixed up some of this kind of a pinky sort of mix. I'll just add in a little bit of silicone oil to that one as well, because I want to try and preserve cells at all costs. And for the light blue colour, I'm going to add in some of this. It says coconut milk. It's an anti-breakage serum, which is a sort of hair product. I just bought it on Amazon, but supposedly this is really good for. So I'm going to put a little bit into my blue. But yeah, that stuff is supposed to be very good for getting cells. Okay, you can see the consistency on that. It's pretty runny. And for our pink, yeah, it's about the same. Now, which to do first? Right. I think I'll go with pink along this edge. I'm just going to let it go right over the edges. Ah! That'll not matter. That bit's dry anyway, so it'll be well covered. Oh, not enough space. And our blue. I might well regret this completely. There's a very distinct possibility, but it's just an old canvas. You can't expect to get things right every time, if at all. Now, acetate. This time I think I'm going to use the acetate this way, so we only have to do 2 swipes instead of this way I'd have to do 3. So I'm hoping to get away with just the 2. Yeah, that should work in theory. So we're just letting the acetate, you can see it sinking into the paint there, getting a grip on it. So I'm just going to let it do the work. slowly pulling it. Okay, it's come down a little bit further than I wanted to, but yeah, it's alright. I'm not really put off by it, that's for sure. There'll be cells appearing here, so hopefully that'll break up a lot more, so it's not quite so pink. Now, I need a fresh piece of acetate. Well, actually I could use this one, if I'm careful. Okay, here we go again. So let it take a grip. Now this right hand side, there's a big dry area there. It's going to be quite hard to cover that, but I'm hoping we can. So far so good. I think we might just get away with it. There's a little dry bit there. Okay. The reason I speeded up there towards the end is because if you stop too soon, or if you go too slowly, you'll end up getting a line across it, and we really want to try and avoid any straight lines and make it look as natural as possible. I'll probably fill this little bit in here though, and I better do that pretty sharp. I'll take a paintbrush actually. It's yellow. Let me just wash that. Okay, so I'll take a little bit of the pink there. I'm just going to take a little of the blue as well. For those with OCD, you could really get carried away with this bit. Ooh, whether to fill in. There's a little dark bit there. I think I will do the same with it. That should flatten out over time. Okay, so I think this time, yeah, I'm happier with that. It's not perfect, but it's better than it was, that's for sure. Okay, so until next time, see ya.